Michael Rosen's Poetry Workshop. This one's called Feeling Ill. I'm going to guess at some time or another you felt ill. Yes, it does seem to be something that very nearly every single one of us feels at some time or another feels ill. So that makes it a great idea for a poem, because sometimes poems can be about very strange things, very weird things, and other times they can be about very ordinary things. And when they're about ordinary things, one of the interesting things you can do is try and think of new ways to write about it, something a little bit strange about something very, very ordinary. So, I've been ill lots of times, had different illnesses. When I was a child, I had chicken pox. Have you had chicken pox? I had mumps and measles. I had tonsillitis. We've got amazing names, these illnesses, aren't they? And so I sat and thought about what it was like being ill, feeling ill, being ill. When I'm saying that, can you hear what I'm doing? I'm using ing words, aren't they? Yes, did you hear those ing words? I was using those. We have lots of ing words in English, don't we? We can say going and coming and seeing and hitting and slipping and all sorts of things, can't we? We can do with ing words. And sometimes it's nice to play with those in poems because it almost feels like it rhymes, but it doesn't quite. So sometimes if you want to write about something going on right now, an ing word is very useful. Yes? So here's my feeling ill poem, and it goes like this. Lying in the middle of the bed, waiting for the clock to change, flicking my toes on the sheets, watching a plane cross the window, staring at the glare of the light, smelling the orange on the table, counting the flowers on the curtain, holding my head with my hand, hearing the steps on the stairs, lying in the middle of the bed, waiting for the clock to change. So I did lots of ing things, and it's like a list, isn't it? You know, like when you go shopping, you make a list of things. Well, you can make list poems out of something that's going on. And that's what I've done there. So I've made a list of different things. What are they? I'm lying in the middle of the bed, waiting for the clock to change, and then there's my toes on the sheets, there's a plane across the window, glare of the light. These are things that I can see. Glare of the light, orange on the table, flowers on the curtain. My head with my hand, that's a doing thing, isn't it? Steps on the stairs, that's a hearing thing. Lying in the middle of the bed, waiting for the clock to change. Oh, what have I done there? Can you see? I've begun the poem, lying in the middle of the bed, waiting for the clock to change, and then I've ended it with lying in the middle of the bed, waiting for the clock to change. It's a special word for that. That's called framing, like you frame a picture. Yes? So the poem has got a frame to it. Lying in the middle of the bed, waiting for the clock to change. And you come again to the end. Lying in the middle of the bed, waiting for the clock to change. And that kind of tells you that really, in a way, that thing, lying in the middle of the bed, waiting for the clock to change, has been going on all the way through the poem and maybe going on after the poem ends. So there's something that we call continuous, and it's suggested without me actually saying it. So there's a nice little trick that you can use in poems so that you just have a feeling that this is going on and on and on without saying it's going on and on and on. Nothing wrong with saying it's going on and on, by the way, if you want to. So how about this? You think of some time when you were ill, and you think, now put yourself in there right now. So you might want some ing words, or you don't have to, but if you want to, they're quite useful. And maybe it was boring, or maybe things were hurting, or maybe you were sad, or maybe it was quite good fun, who knows? All right, but make it so it's happening now. So we have special words to make things happen now. So we say, he is saying, or he says, or she is dancing, or just dancing. So that's one of the ways that we say something's happening now. It's what we call the present tense. So you could write something so it's happening now, yes? And your illness is happening now. So you take yourself back to when you were ill. Think of maybe was your head hurting or your throat was hurting, and what were you hoping for? Were you hoping for a drink. I know one time when I was ill, I so wanted a cold smoothie. How would I write that? Wanting a cold smoothie. What kind of smoothie? Raspberry. Blackcurrant. Oh, wanting a cold raspberry smoothie. There we are. There's a line I've got. And that was just by thinking of how I remembered what it was like when I was ill. Yes? So there's a way you could make a poem about being ill. In the present, lots of ing words, and maybe you might want to use my idea of the frame. You can borrow that if you want. So this poem, Feeling Ill, it comes from my book, Bananas in My Ears. There we are. And Quentin Blake did some lovely pictures in this book. And here's somebody in bed. Can you see this? Somebody in bed feeling ill. Oh, look. And actually, I think she's got her head on her hand, hasn't she? Just like I said in the poem. Got her head on her hand. And sometimes it's a nice way to go to sleep like that, isn't it? So there, that comes from Bananas in My Ears with pictures by Quentin Blake.